Okay, so the Happy Time Murders, which actually opened on Monday, didn't have its national press show until Tuesday. I mean, Monday was the bank holiday, but the national press show was after the opening, which never seems like a particularly good thing. I mean, if the distributors aren't particularly keen to show you a film till after it's opened. So directed by Brian Henson, son of Jim Henson, director of Muppet Christmas Carol. You've almost certainly seen the trailers. The slogan in the trailer, the slogan says, after 35 years of entertaining children, Brian Henson is finally ready to reveal what goes down when the kids aren't around. And the American slogan, which they had a lot of problems with, was no sesame, all street. So the story is a world in which humans and puppets live together. Melissa McCarthy is a cop who's called in to investigate a puppet killing, which is connected to a TV series called the Happy Time series, has to team up with a former partner who was turned into a private investigator, having been thrown out of the force. A puppet partner who used to be in the police force has been thrown out of the force because of an accident that happened some time ago, but became the reason why it is that puppets can't be police detectives. Here's a clip.
You're gonna work together on this.
Excuse me, what?
Oh, come on. This jackwad is the reason the puppets can't be cops anymore.
He missed on purpose that day.
Not true.
Everybody knows puppets don't shoot puppets.
The Phillips Code prohibits me from having a puppet as a partner.
That's true.
He's the Phillips.
I'm Phillips.
They hated him so much they made a code about him.
I'm not reinstating him as a police officer. I'm bringing him on as a consultant.
No. Look, Lieutenant, nobody turns my brother into a chew toy and gets away with it. I'm gonna catch who did these murders.
Murders? I mean, no offense, I don't want to start anything, but what, did I miss another body around here?
No. Whoever killed Larry also took out Mr. Bumbly Pants. Bumbly Pants was the target there.
What's the connection?
The Happy Time Gang.
So, simultaneously, the private investigator is visited by a femme fatale puppet who says that she's a sex addict and she's being blackmailed. And the investigation leads to violence, drugs, sex, prostitution, extortion, pornography.
What?
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So you probably saw... Did you see there was a piece on Newsnight in which they interviewed Brian Henson, the director? And did you see this?
I did not, no.
Okay, so it was the weirdest thing. So they interviewed him, and about they've made this this puppet movie in which it's like it's Muppets, but it's all but it's filth and and gore and blah 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 blah. And one of the things that they had to do was to confess that even at that point the critics' reviews had been really really poor. But what was most interesting was that they said, why do you think the critics have hated the film so much? And Brian Henson said, well, the thing is that when you make a film like this, what they do is they do a lot of test screenings, and it's basically got to be that every scene gets a laugh. And so when you start screening it, what happens is they ramp up the bits to get a laugh, and anything that doesn't get a laugh, they take out. And of course, and what he started to say was that basically, even from his point of view, the film was sorely compromised because he said, they'd taken out all the stuff that was the character stuff, and they'd made it the more gross out comedy because things. So you'd ended up with something that was, big laughs, big audience pleaser, but obviously from the critics' point of view, wasn't going to please them because it didn't have any of the depth that he had intended for it. I mean, the problem with that is I saw it and I didn't laugh once. I mean, to be honest, there was one person in the screening that I saw it with who did appear to laugh all the way through. So I do understand that other opinions are available, but I thought it was absolutely terrible. And I thought it was terrible for two reasons. Firstly, its humor is staggeringly misjudged in as much as it imagines that what's funny is the collision of taking, Muppet-like puppet characters and just getting them to do a whole bunch of stuff that's kind of, sweary and obscene and violent, because that in itself is a gag. So firstly, that gag isn't very funny. Secondly, this has been done before, and I'm not referring to it done before with things like Team America. I think Team America World Police is really funny. And why is it really funny? Because it's really well written. It's really, really smart. Yes, it's, vulgar and outrageous, and it's got that kind of Thunderbirds puppets doing rude stuff, but it's funny because it's well written. This, however, reminded me of that Peter Jackson movie from back in the late 80s called Meet the Feebles, which is essentially the same movie and which did everything that this movie is doing and did it better and did it first and was terrible. And the crucial thing about Peter Jackson's Meet the Feebles is that it was made at a point when another film that he was trying to make had fallen down, and he'd had quite a lot of production troubles going on. There was a film that he really wanted to make and he couldn't make it, and suddenly the funding became available to make Meet the Feebles, and he made it. And the weird thing about Meet the Feebles, which is pretty much the blueprint for what this is that it's a really nasty, mean-spirited film that seems to be fired by frustration and anger rather than being fired by anything creative. In the case of the Happy Time Murders, therefore, you've got something which is a pale imitation of a film I didn't like the first time round, and a film which its own director says has been compromised because it's been cut in order to make it funnier, and yet it wasn't funny. And I think it's a real shame. I think it's a really embarrassingly poor piece of work that, at very best has a certain kind of, mondo interest in, like, oh, really? We're actually going to see this happen in this scene. You're actually doing that. But that's it. And that sort of prurient interest lasts for about 5 minutes, after which you just think, oh, really? It's just, I thought it was terrible. I thought it was really, really depressingly poor.